Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for everything you're doing to improve the health and the care and the quality of life of people around the globe. I'm very, very proud of your work, and I'm so happy to have the opportunity to work with you guys and share some of the lesson learned from our experience in agile science in general, but specifically behavioral economics. So what I'm going to be doing over the next 15 minutes or so is trying to give you an introduction on key concept and key definition driven from behavioral economics. In particular, how can you actually convert these insights and these key concepts and definition from behavioral economic to design and implement nudges? And I'll help you define, understand the word nudge and how to implement it and design it in future slides. So next, I'm making an assumption that you all have really captured Silvia's story. And as you know, Silvia wanted to change the behavior of certain people in her network for the purpose of accomplishing good outcome and good impact. And what if you notice what she did, if you analyzed her story, you'll notice that she was trying to think about how can she design a nudge that is based on text messages reminder, and how can she make that impact of these text messages optimize and effective. And if you notice how she did it, she really gained insight from behavioral economic to design her nudge, or in this case, this text message based reminder. Next. So what is this insight from behavioral economic? What is behavioral economic in principle? So behavioral economic is a broad term, public term, that include a lot of social cognitive theories that have been developed for the past maybe 50 years or so, been popularized by the work of amazing giant in behavioral economic, Daniel Kahneman, and his partner who passed away in the early 2000s, and some of the students of Dr. Kahneman, specifically Richard Thyron. Ironically, Dr. Thyron and Dr. Kahneman both won the Nobel Prize in economics based on their work in behavioral economics and specifically a nudge. And what behavioral economic or social cognitive theory is trying to do, they try to understand, predict, and even steer or nudge the behavior of individual by focusing on the architectures or on the context or on the way or the process of how individual make a decision. And behavioral economic particularly focus on how can you actually influence these decisions using economic incentive combined and integrated with insight from psychology. All right, next. So what is behavioral economic in particular? Both Daniel Kahneman and Imus and Dr. Thyron, all of them have noticing from their work that theoretically, it's not in reality, but theoretically, the human brain make decisions that are very, very sensitive to their environment, to the human environment. And that a human environment could be physical environment, can be now digital environment, and obviously a social environment. And that environment and its context has a huge impact on the decision-making process. In general, just for making things easy, you can split the brain decision-making process or operating system into two systems, one called system 1 and one called system 2, that we use 24 hours, a combination of one of these systems in making decision and change our behavior. Next. So these two operating system or these two decision-making process in the brain called system 1 and system 2. System 1 is the quick one, is the unconscious, is the strongest, and it's the dominant one. On average, more than 23 hours a day, we make all this decision as a human using system one. Sometimes, on average, maybe 20 minutes to 60 minutes a day, we use this, what we call the hyper, or the upper, or the cortex system two operating a process for making decision. System two is very rational, as much as you can be very reflective. It's very conscious. You are aware of it when you make these decisions, and it consumes a lot of attention and a lot of concentration, but it's relatively weak. When system one and system two fight, system one will beat system two all the time, almost all the time, especially when you are in very high uncertainty environment, very stressful environment. Next. So if you look in the story of Silvia, she is what we call, if you look at her as a person who trying to influence or change the behavior of a human, you can think of her as a choice architect, or choice designer, or choice engineer. And this designer, architect, and engineer is someone who has the main responsibility of creating a setting. That setting could be physical, social, or digital. Within that setting, that the modification of that setting can influence the people decision-making process. So similarly to Silvia, many of us, even if we don't know it, we are actually designing choice by default, without even aware of it. So the choice architecture, the choice design itself is presenting stakeholders with a lot of choices, but in a different way, with the goal of influencing the right behavior, or leading to a decision-making process that will produce a behavior that is aligned with good outcome. Much like someone would design a display in an academic conference to highlight certain fact or figure to draw in audience, that's really the role of the choice architect, the choice designer, and the choice engineer, like Silvia. So behavior economics, like I said, they're giving you an insight about how a human being make decision. One of the application of these insight is something developed and popularized by Dr. Thyron, who won the Nobel Prize in, I think, in 2019 or maybe 17, I don't remember exactly, about his work in designing and implementing nudges to improve the public health. What is nudge? Is a nudge, we can define it as any aspect of choice architecture. That aspect could be modification in the physical environment, the digital environment, and the social environment that alters people behavior in a predictable way, but without forbidding other options. And that's the big difference between manipulation and nudges. Is the nudges is make the modification in the physical and social environment, but without forbidding other options. So, and most of the time, nudge leverage the way the system one, that automatic, strong, fast process of making decision, leverage that operating system to actually influence and induce targeted behavior. So with that piece, you can see we have reviewed a lot of these key definitions of behavior economic, in particular, system one, system two, and nudge. But within this Silvia story and other presentation, we will dive details for you to actually apply behavior economic principle and insight, and learn how to actually use or develop or design a nudge for the target of improving outcome in the setting that you are practicing or living with. So thank you very much.